From hibernating ghouls to full-blown atomic scams, we're diving into some of the biggest Fallout theories out there, with some mind-blowing and others downright questionable. And we're starting with an encounter that has a deeper connection to one of the 4 entry key characters. 1. Raider misunderstanding. Could the sole survivor's first encounter with Commonwealth Raiders be entirely a misunderstanding brought about by the long-lost grandson of Mama Murphy? Many strange characters exist in the Fallout universe. These characters exhibit abilities that stray completely from the norms of this post-apocalyptic setting and causes players to question the hidden nature of the world of Fallout. Playing through the main story of Fallout 4, soon after leaving Vault 111, the sole survivor will come across a group of survivors besieged by a large group of raiders in the ruins of Concord. After defeating them, the sole survivor will meet Mama Murphy, a chem-addicted clairvoyant who refers to her precognitive powers as the Sight. Throughout the game, after the sole survivor and the others form a settlement in the ruins of the sole survivor's pre-war home and sanctuary, he can get her to use the Sight to aid him in his quest to rescue his son. Doing this can yield the sole survivor key information, such as guiding him to Diamond City at the start of the game and giving the players the factory reset code for a synth courser that they encounter later in the story. But what if I told you that the raiders that had been after the Concord group were actually sent by Mama Murphy's grandson? Just south of Lexington, you can come across the Corvega assembly plant, where raiders have made their fortress. Their leader Jared cannot be reasoned with and will always be hostile to the sole survivor, but they do record a plethora of information in a terminal found in their office. The terminal entry labeled Stumped states that decades prior to the events of Fallout 4, Mama Murphy had taken chems and revealed what would come to them in the future. She would tell the young Jared that raiders would burn down his town, kill his parents, take the kids to be raised among them, and that Jared would become a monster. All of this would go on to happen, leaving Jared mystified and determined to gain such precognitive gifts for himself. He would conduct experiments on himself and many unfortunate wastelanders, never attaining the psychic gifts that he sought. When his experiments bore no fruit, he sought out Mama Murphy, spotting an elderly woman matching her description in Lexington. He wondered if she would recognize him after all these years, and ordered his lieutenant, Gristle, to bring her back to him, which he might have completed had the sole survivor not entered the picture. Discovering this has led many to ponder on the notion that he could be her son, or grandson, who sought Mama Murphy out to reunite with his grandmother and unlock the secrets of her powers so that he could take control of the wasteland of a clairvoyant overlord. For instance, no one would have to fear if their neighbors are synths if it could be revealed to them through visions. This next one involves the measures that wastelanders have been forced to take out of fear that anyone could be a synth. But could this be affected by previous isolationist origins? 2. Covenant origins. In May of 2229, an event that would become known as the Broken Mask Incident rocked Diamond City. A traveler, who claimed to be from out west, had been drinking at the central bar when he suddenly froze. Drawing the attention of others around him as his face began to twitch, he would unholster his firearm and execute the bartender, before turning his firearm on those around him. He would kill 10 of them before Diamond City security was able to put him down, discovering that he was no normal traveler, but a machine. This was when the citizens of Diamond City began to lock their doors as night, trusting no one as anyone could be a synth. A walled village, protected from raiders by a series of advanced sentry guns, would be constructed and go on to be known as Covenant, with its citizens priding themselves on how pristine their town looked. This would attract traders to the settlement that allowed it to grow into a powerhouse. But beneath this town hides a dark secret. Dr. Rosalind Chambers and her scientific team at Covenant were capturing wastelanders that could not pass their safe test and label them as a potential synth. This test mirrors the GOAT exam taken by the Vault 101 dwellers to determine what their future role would be in the vault. Dr. Chambers set up a prison in the nearby sewers, called the Compound, where they ran experiments on their captives in an attempt to uncover the Institute's secrets and locate where they came from. The Covenant's guards at the Compound are adorned in what seems to be painted over Vault Tech security armor, with the Vault Tech logo still visible on the helmet upon closer inspection. One of the scientists found in the Compound is also wearing a Vault Tech lab coat. Could Dr. Chambers and her team be from Vault 101? There is more that points towards this, with posters all over the Compound featuring exact copies of questions asked during the GOAT exam. One of these posters says, "Congratulations, you made one of the Vault 101 baseball teams." This seems to indicate that they may have come from Vault 101, but we are led to believe in Fallout 3 that no one who had ever left the vault survived. Or could answers be found deeper into the game? In the Vault Overseer's terminal, we can discover that sometime before 2241, the Vault 101 Overseer, prior to the one found in Fallout 3, had started to send scouts out into the wasteland to run tests on whether or not life on the surface was viable sometime before February 10th, 2241. Discovering how irradiated the Cephis had become, but discovering cities like Megaton thriving nonetheless, the Overseer himself led an expedition possession that would vanish entirely and never return, seeing life on the suffice unfit for long-term survival. The vault fell back into its isolationist ways, and any mention of this became taboo. Could the citizens of Covenant be the descendants of that missing expedition team? It would explain their understanding of science and why they aim to style Covenant as the ideal pre-war community. In the Commonwealth, to survive, you have to be aware of the company you keep, but nobody questions the mysterious savior who will appear and take down hostiles with one single shot before vanishing, as silent as he arrived. 3. The Stranger's name. The mysterious stranger is a wasteland guardian that appears through the Fallout series, taking out a target of the protagonist with one critical shot. But who is this mysterious stranger? Nick Valentine has gathered all the information he could find into a case file. In his files, he notes that the mysterious stranger appears suddenly, killing without remorse, disappearing without a word, writing that the stranger has no known accomplices, no clear method for selecting his targets. Nick has never been able to come to a conclusion on the identity of the mysterious stranger, but what if his origins can be found at the very start of the series, with the stranger displaying the power to be just where he is needed to make one precise shot and a lifespan that allowed him to appear as early as 2102 in Fallout 76? This has left players to ask if this could be a power related to FEV. One Redditor, Albert Cole, has even speculated that he could be none other than one of the companions of Richard Gray, who led an attack on Mariposa military base in order to stem the tide of mutants that had been descending from there. According to the theory, the mysterious stranger could be none other than Mark, who would be wounded during the assault and forced to ascend back to the surface, but he would never be seen again. What we know is that every other member of this team is accounted for. Richard Gray became the psychic super mutant master, Harold became the heart of a sentient tree that would spread life throughout the wasteland, and Francine would perish from a gunshot wound dealt to her by the vault security systems. Coincidentally, this would take place in 2102, the same year as the first sighting as the mysterious stranger. If this theory is to be believed, with Harold and Richard mutating into godlike entities and Mark disappearing completely, he could have evolved into an immortal guardian that is able to appear to those in need and save them from whatever threat they face. This one is a little far-fetched, but psychic powers have also been prevalent in every Fallout game, so there is precedent for this theory. This next theory aims to explain why Billy was able to survive 200 years trapped in a fridge without going feral, a perplexing mystery that led outrage among many of the fans. 4. Trapped ghouls. Not feral? How have certain ghouls managed to survive trapped for extended periods without food or water? Ghouls appear throughout the Fallout franchise, many of them having been born from the direct aftermath of the Great War. The severe radiation would cause many to mutate into zombie-like creatures known as ghouls. Their skin would degrade and flack off, causing their hair, nose, and ears to fall off and leaving their muscles exposed. Although many of these ghouls would retain their high thought processes, some would lose all their intellect, grow feral, and attack anything that did not look like a ghoul. Ghouls are still required to eat and drink, though their ability to consume food is greatly increased as they are immune to most diseases and radiation completely, with their bodies capable of regenerating any damage that might come with the consumption of more harmful foods. Though there seems to be some exceptions to ghouls needing to consume food and water. Coffin Willie was buried in a coffin for several months. Woody was entombed and exhibited as a mummy for weeks, while mysteriously unconscious the whole time. Billy Peabody was a child who survived the Great War inside a refrigerator, where he remained trapped 210 years until 2287. The TV series Cooper Howard was mentioned to have survived being repeatedly buried in a chained coffin years at a time. Though many would say that this could be due to their regenerative abilities, it still leaves the question as to why they had not gone feral, while so many other ghouls had. We know that all of these ghouls still retained the need to eat and drink, with Cooper Howard drinking constantly to remain hydrated and even going as far as to consume the flesh of other ghouls to stave off hunger. Many fans were outraged with the notion that Billy Peabody had survived for 210 years in a fridge without food and water, but what if I told you that it makes perfect sense? In the animal world, it's common to find species that enter a state of hibernation to survive the colder winter months, when food and water become scarce, and energy needs to be conserved. Hibernation is characterized by low body temperature, slow breathing and heart rate, and severely reduced metabolic rate. So, could the ghoul's unique biology adapt to situations where food and water cannot be obtained by going into a state of hibernation that renders them completely unconscious like Woody was? This unconscious state could be what prevented them from going feral, since the lack of socialization would have driven them feral otherwise. It would make sense and explain some of the inconsistencies in the lore, so I consider this one high up there on what could be fact. This next one could mean that the Brotherhood of Steel already had a presence at Nuka World long before its Raider factions took over the place. 5. Nuka World Brotherhood Outpost. Nuka World makes the sole survivor fight through a gauntlet of powerful powerful enemies that will eventually put them through a fierce battle with a rogue knight of the Brotherhood of Steel, which shouldn't even be around due to the Brotherhood having only just arrived in the Commonwealth. Could there be more? What many people don't know is that this rogue may not have been the only knight of the Brotherhood of Steel to have chosen the Nuka World area to defect to. If you travel southeast of Bradburton in the outskirts of Nuka World, you will come across the Morton residence. The house has long since been abandoned and fallen into disrepair, with rad roaches infesting the area that the sole survivor have to clear. The sole survivor will have to enter through the basement, the remains. Mr. Morton himself can be found there, but if you continue upstairs in the garage, you can find a power armor station that is the only location in the game where a suit of power armor can spawn with pieces every style of Brotherhood painted power armor, including the otherwise unobtainable Brotherhood Initiate paint. Could this be all that's left of a splinter faction of the Brotherhood that defected away from Maxon? In Nukatown backstage, you can find a note on a shelf at the northeast corner of the room. It states that Buzz, a member of the Pack Raider group from Nuka World, had found a Brotherhood outpost full of bodies and ghouls. When he went back to collect a piece of power armor nearby, he and his friend had been attacked by the Brotherhood and his friend lost their finger. A holotape found nearby then states that he went back and acquired the armor, but couldn't steer it properly as he fled from the Brotherhood and fell down a cliff, getting the power armor stuck. This cannot be found in-game, so we're left wondering if the Brotherhood received this power armor. Now, that seems to indicate that there should be a Brotherhood presence in Nuka World, but no outpost can be found anywhere. Nor does Maxon's Brotherhood mention anything about them back in the Commonwealth. So, we're led to believe that they packed their bags and left, leaving only the knight that defected to the Raiders behind. It would make sense that the rogue knight would not be known by Maxon, as he would have dealt with the defector to prevent the Raiders from acquiring information that could be used against them. This leads me to the conclusion that the Brotherhood of Steel members at Nuka World could have defected, and when they learned of Maxon's arrival in the Commonwealth, they moved further away to prevent being discovered. If they had only just left the area, could that mean that they did not expect the East Coast Brotherhood to have progressed as fast as they had? Could the East Coast Brotherhood have a biological advantage that few other factions have managed to attain? 6. Lack of civilizations. While playing through the Fallout series, you may wonder, why are larger communities few and far between? Communities like Diamond City and Good Neighbor are the outliers, with many failed civilizations dotted all over the Commonwealth. Raiders are far more prevalent, being found just about everywhere in the wasteland. These raiders are cruel, committing vile acts on their victims and with little to no remorse. Could it be that there is one simple answer for this? Everyone could be suffering from prolonged exposure to lead, which is known to increase the likelihood of future criminal activity, especially having individuals to develop a violent nature. Even simply having elevated levels of lead in bone marrow and blood tissue causes aggression, destructive, and delinquent behavior. Lead poisoning will also hinder attention spans and decreased cognitive performance, which would hinder the regrowth of society. As evident by the poor working conditions found in terminal entries throughout the game, environmental conservation and regulations weren't really a thing that people cherished pre-war. The Fallout timeline separates from our own around the end of World War II, in September of 1945, and laws preventing the use of lead pipes hadn't been passed until 1986 with the Safe Drinking Water Act. If Fallout did not have a mirror to such a law, which seems likely given the nuclear waste that's left in dump sites around the wasteland, it would mean that virtually all ground and piped water would be contaminated. This would explain the aggressive nature of the raiders as well as why society has not been able to recover despite 200 years having passed since the bombs fell. Having access to clean water through Fallout 3's Project Purity could be why Maxon's Brotherhood was able to progress so much in such little time. With cleaner heads and capable attention spans, the Brotherhood could focus and direct their force to advance their society to where they could construct the Pridwin and arrive at the Commonwealth. The theory being true would also explain why the sole survivor and vault dwellers are so much more capable than the average wastelander, so they're unaffected by the lead effects of prolonged lead exposure. Not everyone is trying to avoid the toxins found out in the wasteland. There are some, like the Children of Adam, that seek those toxins out. This next theory questions if their toxic goals are being exploited, or do they have a legitimate silent savior that keeps them going. 7. Atomic Scam. During the Far Harbor DLC, the sole survivor is given the option of joining the Children of Adam, where they will encounter a mysterious figure that might not be as mysterious as we're led to believe. If you're unaware, the Children of Adam worship a god they call Adam, which they view as the personification of radiation and all things nuclear, such as atomic warheads. Where most people see weapons of mass destruction, the children see holy tools of creation. Generally, they believe the world was created when an atom was split, and that each nuclear detonation represents the birth of countless new universes. Atomites, as they call themselves, have developed a culture around the belief that there is a supernatural nature radiation. To join, the sole survivor will will have to drink water from Adam's spring, which is heavily irradiated. After which, an otherworldly woman that seems more like a living shadow, cloaked in mist, will appear and guide them on a path through Far Harbor. This is the Mother of the Fog, and following her will eventually lead to one of the cult's holy sites. There, a series of cryptic notes can be found. Acolyte Richter will reveal to the sole survivor upon return to the cult's headquarters that most people believe her to be a holy spirit of Adam, but there are few who believe her to be a reclusive hermit. He recognizes that she has helped guide them many times in the past, even going as far as to say that they wouldn't be there without her. Around the shrine she guides the sole survivor to. Near Haddock Cove, there is a ruined house that has in its attic 3 notes that are formatted just like the ones found at the shrine the Mother of the Fog lead you to. The notes reveal some of what the children of Adam had been up to before the sole survivor arrived on the island of Far Harbor. Underneath this table are a few stealth boys, which could explain her ghostly appearance in the fog. Could she be scamming the children of Adam? With the notes tying this to the Mother of the Fog and the stealth boys, it appears as though she is a normal hermit, just as the minority believe. She may have taken on this role to help guide the children of Adam who were undergoing the effects of radiation-induced neuropsychiatric manifestations due to the severe radiation exposure, which causes delirium, cerebral microbleeding, and long-term cognitive deterioration. Or she could be exploiting the cultists by pocketing whatever ritualistic offerings they would leave her. While this theory doesn't explain why shadowy creatures appear as she guides the sole survivor to the shrine, it could be that she injects the sole survivor with a stealth boy, without their knowledge, for safe passage to the shrine. This would make sense. Shadowy creatures wouldn't be able to see the sole survivor, and their cognitive state would distort their sight and make them appear more magical than normal. Rather, you believe her to be a hermit or a deity. She seems to be protecting the children of Adam by guiding them to safety when they conduct their toxic rituals. So, at the end of the day, is there any harm in what she's doing? Far Harbor was such an interesting DLC and added a lot to the game, but this next theory might be a bit hard to swallow, especially for those that know the pain of having a loved one grow old and lose their memories. 8. Limited memory. Could Nick Valentine go on to forget his part in saving the Commonwealth and his adventures with the sole survivor entirely? If the sole survivor speaks to the leader of Arcadia, Dima, he will reveal that he was one of 2 prototype synths made by the Institute. The other is everyone's favorite wasteland detective, Nick Valentine, who Dima regards as a brother. Dima will also reveal that since he and Nick are prototypes, they have a limited memory storage capacity and will have to make room for new memories eventually. Dima defeated this shortcoming by upgrading his memory, but that option isn't available for Nick, possibly because it might limit his ability to effectively wear that stylist fedora of his, which would take away from his whole detective aesthetic. This seems to be supported by the start of the DLC, as it reveals that Kenji Nakano, the concerned father who acquires Nick's assistance to find his daughter, had assisted Nick out on an investigation. This was because Nick had needed access to a boat, and Kenji had one, and the skills to back it up. The client who had hired Nick to reacquire a lost heirloom had decided to pay in lead instead of caps, and turned on Nick and Kenji after they returned to him with it. Kenji was shot, so it was a pretty big event. It would make sense for Nick to remember that, but he doesn't. He can barely recall Kenji's name and struggles during their conversation. Nick also doesn't recall Dima whatsoever. So could it be that he will one day forget the events of Fallout 4 and his adventures with the sole survivor? Who knows? Let's just hope those memories of Kellogg's are the first to go. If too much of Nick is lost before Kellogg's memories, we might discover a more dramatic shift in Nick's personality in later installments of the series. 9. Reverse engineered. Fallout 4 has revealed so many aspects of the Fallout timeline that were previously left in the dark. This includes technologies that seem out of place and almost too advanced to have been a product of pre-war America. So were they? With characters like the Jack Cabot family, revealing strange details of ancient alien civilizations that remain intact below the surface of the Earth. During the intro cutscene of the game, the optional sole survivor Nate reveals that after the end of World War II, there was a sudden focus on nuclear power as energy rather than as a weapon. This was where our timeline split from Fallout's, with the Fallout universe gaining a seemingly endless supply of power that could benefit the livelihoods of everyone. Technology began to advance at an accelerated rate, which leads many fans to believe that alien technology could have been reverse engineered. The ship at the crash site in Fallout 4 looks eerily similar to the pre-war planes that can be found throughout the Commonwealth. Followers of this theory believe that the Roswell UFO incident of 1947 happened in this timeline, and this allowed for the first instance of humans reverse engineering alien technology, which would explain the sudden shift in timelines. In 1894, Lorenzo Cabot, father of Jack Cabot, went on an expedition to the Rub al-Khali Desert in the Middle East, searching for proof that there could be a precursor civilization hiding below the surface. With many believing his theory that this civilization could exist to be insane, he proved right when he discovered discovered a vast subterranean city that held within it the artifacts and remains that could not be of human origin. Only one artifact would be removed from this site, a crown that granted him an extended lifespan and gave him superhuman abilities. Perhaps other sites belonging to this precursor civilization could have been discovered later and used to develop the strangely advanced technologies found throughout the series. With the evidence present in the series, this theory seems consistent with the lore in Fallout 4. But what if we had a closer connection to this precursor civilization than even Lorenzo Cabot could have imagined? This next theory dives into the deepest waters of Fallout lore, exposing why humans are affected in so many different ways by the forced evolutionary virus and what these mutations could be leading to. 10. Zerskin Ordings extraterrestrial origins. Could radiation be pushing us towards a pre-engineered evolutionary line that exposure to FEV could be corrupting? Overall, the evidence presented in this theory seems to point at an alien influence in the evolution of humanity that is leading the wasteland towards an endpoint that the Zetans might be monitoring. Followers of this theory believe that ancient humans were experimented on by the Zetans or some other ancient culture, and their DNA could be found within our own, with whatever civilization initiating the climax of the Great War by activating humanity's nuclear systems in order to push humanity's evolution a little further, as we were not meant to reach their level of technology yet. This theory could explain why Lorenzo is affected by the crown, and why he can even wear it in the first place. Through the misfortune of the ghouls and super mutants, what we do know is that humans experience a variety of biological changes when exposed to radiation, and when exposed to FEV as well. Super mutants, as revealed in the terminal of Fallout 3's Vault 87, stating that both genders lose most of their visible indicators and take on an asexual state, and effectively starting with a clean slate as it works. With this comes a complete immunity to radiation, and their skin becomes green. As we know, Zetans have green skin themselves, and asexual, so could this indicate that FEV has caused Zetan DNA in humans to become more dominant and become a warped version of a Zetan? With the Zetans being so advanced, and super mutant dim-witted, this could be due to the imperfections of FEV. We are some that, with proper application of refined radiation, super mutants such as Virgil and Fox become far superior to their kindred. Virgil's intelligence is increased to such a degree that he is the only one in the Fallout series capable of reversing the effects of FEV. Some followers of this theory even believe that ancient humans were experimented on by the Zetans or some other ancient culture, and their DNA could be found within our own, with whatever civilization initiating the climax of the Great War by activating humanity's nuclear systems in order to push humanity's evolution a little further, as we were not meant to reach their level of technology yet. What we do know is that humans experience a variety of biological changes when exposed to radiation, with those unfortunate ghouls and super mutants when exposed to FEV as well. Super mutants, as revealed in the terminal of Fallout 3's Vault 87, states that both genders lose most of their visible indicators and take on an asexual state, and effectively starting with a clean slate as it works. With this comes a complete immunity to radiation, and their skin becomes green. As we know, Zetans have green skin themselves and are asexual. So could this indicate that FEV has caused Zetan DNA in humans to become more dominant and become a warped version of a Zetan? With the Zetans being so advanced and super mutant dim-witted, this could be due to the imperfections of FEV. We are some that, with proper application of refined radiation, super mutants such as Virgil and Fox become far superior to their kindred. Virgil's intelligence is increased to such a degree that he is the only one in the Fallout series capable of reversing the effects of FEV. Ghouls could be a result of this alien DNA being more predominant in certain individuals, with their outward appearances rapidly mutating to be more like the Zetans, but without the coloration, which is why they become immune to radiation. The abominations found aboard Mothership Zeta in Fallout 3 could be the result of Zetans experimenting with the activation of this DNA that created another form of imperfect hybrids that displays more of the Zetan side of their DNA, but retaining their human skin colors and facial features. Supporting this theory is that they seem to act a lot like feral ghouls, and pre-war books, cigarettes, money, and even harmonicas can be looted from their bodies. Alien genetic engineering could be why the children of Adam are attracted to radiation in the first place, as they revere ghoulification as a form of enlightenment. This is supported by a faction of the children of Adam located at the Kingsport Lighthouse that revere a glowing one kept in the lighthouse as the blessed in the tower. It could be noted that the cultists at Nucleus view ghouls to be unfit for Adam's grace, as their view might be affected by the ghouls being an imperfect manifestation of this DNA. Lorenzo Cabot's crown could also factor into this, and as it could have been an ancient medical device that stabilized the original genetic experiments that would lead to modern humans in the Fallout timeline. With all this information, this theory is still a tough one to swallow, but if it's true, could it mean that the Zetans are incapable of reproducing themselves and species such as our own were created throughout the galaxy as a means for them to multiply? We'll have to wait until future installments reveal more. These were Fallout 4's biggest theories, explained. If you want to see every crazy Fallout 4 theory that might actually be true, click the video on the screen.